scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe in Matthew Stafford to beat Tom Brady?
4, 5, 9. That's where I'm at. A 9. Yeah.
Say it with your chest.
9.
Try to convince yourself, Shannon Sharpe.
Yep. I love what the Rams are with Matthew Stafford because you have to defend every blade of grass from 0 yards to 60 yards, left, right. There's no area on the field that's safe when the ball is in his hands. He can just do things. His arm talent is undeniable. He could just do things that Jared Goff can't do.
I agree. Keep going.
And so you combine that with Cooper Kupp. You combine that with Robert Woods. Now, they haven't got Deshaun Jackson involved as much as I think they can and should, but this will be a great game for him to take the top off the coverage at least once.
I agree.
The running game, Skip, they got a couple of guys, little nick. They nicked at the running game, but that I don't know if you're going to have a whole lot of success running the football against this Tampa defense anyway. But teams have had success throwing the football. Matt Ryan threw the ball exceptionally well, except the last 2 throws of that ball game, which were pick sixes. And Dak, we know what Dak did on opening Thursday night. He threw the ball for over 400 yards. So for whatever reason, Skip, while the Bucs offense have seemingly picked up where they left off, the Bucs defense haven't had such luxury of doing that yet. So whatever the reasons are, now they're going to possibly be without, we know they're going to be without Murphy Bunting. That we know possibly without JPP. That's a big, and Skip, they hadn't been getting to the quarterbacks like we saw them that last 5 to 6 games of the regular season and in that playoff push. But, so with that being said, and Sean McVay, this is what Sean McVay wanted. He wanted a quarterback that could run his complete playbook.
He did.
That could make you defend every area on the field. Mm-hmm. And I think because the Rams defense, look, that guy, he goes by AD. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player. I can make a compelling case. He's the best player in football. So
you think that AD's even better than the Lakers AD?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Aaron Donald has an opportunity.
That's a big concession on your part.
No, ain't no big
right?
concession. Aaron Donald has a chance to go down as the greatest defensive player ever. So I think the AD Anthony Davis has his work cut out to try to get jump over that hurdle. Leonard Floyd, they got the best DB in football in J. Ram, Taylor Rapp, Joseph Day. I like the Rams defense. I like the Rams defense. I love this team. So I'm at a 9, and I got the Rams.
You got the Rams,
sure
says
do.
Shannon Sharpe. Okay, my turn. Shannon Sharpe, at this moment, has me on the run because of the loss of 2 initial players, AB and JPP. If you had told me 3-4 days ago that I would be without Antonio Brown and Jason Pierre-Paul, AB and JPP, my initial prediction would have been undercut. I wouldn't have been nearly as confident. But I, for one, on this show, have courage of my convictions. I am never flip skip. So I'm going to stand strong behind my man, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr.
Exactly.
Because I got one thing and only one thing going for me on Sunday.
What's that?
I do not have Brady's favorite target. And I'm going to remind you, speaking of targets, when they did lose to the Rams last November at Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football, the most targets by far on the team in that game went to Antonio Brown. He had 13 targets in that game. He is almost certainly not going to be able to play because of COVID, right?
Yep.
And what came alive at the end of the year? What made the Super Bowl, according to Shannon Sharpe? Well, it was the demise of the protection, the offensive line of one Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And meanwhile, all of a sudden, Shaq Barrett on one end, and even more so, JPP on the other end, started to rise and shine and devastate, right?
Yep.
JPP made the Pro Bowl last year, and it sounds almost certainly like he's not going to play in this game, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you have me at 2 supreme disadvantages, except I got you in one spot. I still don't believe in Matthew Stafford.
You will be. You will after the Sunday.
I admire him. I respect him. I honor him just the way Bruce Arians did. Remember the recent quotes from Bruce Arians? I'm going to read them real quick because they are staggering to me. Of Matt Stafford, Bruce Arians, the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, said, he's one of my all-time favorite guys. He's tough as nails. He's one of the few quarterbacks I like going out and watching warm up just to watch him throw because he's so special, said Bruce Arians, who continued. Always felt like he was extremely one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this league for a long time. His team loves him because they know he's going to suck it up for them, okay? Can you get much higher praise?
No.
From a coach? And this is way before this game, so it's not a game week. Right. I'm going to gush just to try to set them up for the kill.
Well, he said that even before they were playing them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He didn't even know when he said these things. He didn't even know. So I want that on the record about Matt Stafford.
Okay.
But now we look harder at who is Matt Stafford and what happened in Detroit. His record as a starter in Detroit, 74-90-1, okay? In 7 of those 9 seasons in Detroit, he had this guy nicknamed Megatron.
Yeah.
Was he any good?
Yeah.
Some people make the case just in a vacuum. If you had to create the all-time greatest receiver, would he not qualify?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Calvin Johnson we're talking about. So 7 of the 9 years with Megatron, Matt Stafford made 1 Pro Bowl. He went 0-3 in the postseason, and 2 of the games were not even close. The one at New Orleans, I don't know if you remember that one. That was when Drew Brees was riding high back in 2011.
Right. That was at Brees at his apex.
They got shelled. It was 45-28. But Megatron in that game at Superdome caught 12 balls for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. And they still got blown out.
Right.
Then they played pretty well at Dallas against just a pretty good Dallas team. And
when they got robbed,
they got robbed because a pass interference on Hitchens, now a Chief obviously, got overturned, and I still don't know why it got overturned, but they picked up the flag, and it saved the day for my Cowboys, who then went on to Green Bay, and they got robbed at Green Bay.
No.
So maybe it was karma.
One robbery
goes around, came back around, and we got robbed because Dez caught it. We all know he caught it. I don't even want to start. I'll get ill here on the
Skip,
show.
if you mug a man down the street and then somebody mug you, how you gonna call the cops? Because you did the exact same thing, so you shouldn't be upset.
That's what happened. You just nailed it. 2016 was his final playoff appearance. Matt Stafford in Detroit. He lost 26-6 at Seattle, and he wasn't very good. He barely threw for 200 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's his resume in Detroit. For all of his arm talent, for all of his toughness, I didn't see the intangibles that lifted him up above and into even the top 10 of quarterbacks, because I don't think you ever had him even in your top 10, though Arians is saying he's got top 5 talent.
You will see, Skip, the thing is, I think you and I, we graded him the same way. We looked at, throw the ball, got Megatron, but shouldn't we get some more victories out of this? Shouldn't we get a guy that's making the playoffs more often? But coaches, they view him entirely, Skip, and that's always been the case. If you look at how he's rated and how coaches look at him.
I got it. And for my eye test, obviously I'm locked into my Dallas Cowboys, and I'll remind Cowboy Nation of a couple of games that Matt Stafford played in his hometown of Dallas, Texas, where he went to Highland Park High School.
Right.
2011, at Dallas, they trailed 27-3 in the third quarter. At which point, my man Tony Romo suddenly threw 2 pick sixes in the third quarter. One to the best man in his wedding, Bobby Carpenter. Made me wonder, did you throw him a present or something? Because it was 27-3.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I look up. I actually went to the restroom at that point and came back in, and it was 27-10. I said, what did I miss? Bobby Carpenter, once a Cowboy first-round pick, rejected by Bill Parcells, and then on to Detroit. He bounced around. Obviously, I love Bobby Carpenter, but again, we had Bobby on the show back at ESPN the next day, and he was saying, I kind of wondered if Tony threw me a present because it was so blatant. But again, they came back in the game, and here came Matt Stafford, and all of a sudden, they pulled it out. They came all the way back to win 34-30. Okay, so he was tremendous that day. He was even better in 2013 in Detroit when he threw Calvin Johnson.
He almost broke the record.
329 yards worth of footballs. 329? Can Shannon Sharpe even fathom catching 329 in a game?
That's too good. That's 2 games for any receiver.
Any receiver, it's 2 games, and Flipper Anderson still has the record at 336, which I still find staggering. But
I think that was a Sunday night game against the Saints.
It was unbelievable. Okay, so my eye test told me in those 2 games, Matt Stafford was all world. But he only made 1 Pro Bowl. And the harder I look at his resume, this is the God's truth. I looked at this harder and harder last night, and I said, seriously, is he better than Jared Goff? Because I don't think he is.
Oh, yeah, he's better than Jared Goff.
Okay, well, look at what Jared Goff did. Look at his resume versus Matt Stafford's resume, albeit dysfunctional Detroit. We know Barry Sanders quit and walked away on Detroit.
Megatron
He quit and walked
away.
away. Okay, I got it. But Matt Stafford was not able to rise above that franchise and lift them into contention. He never did that. Jared Goff, think of the great game. I'm not, and I'll toss that word around loosely. He played some great games. It started back in 2017 against my Cowboys at Dallas. Do you remember that game?
Oh, yeah, when
they
came
won
from
35-30, and he was sensational in that game. I mean, he looked like Matt Stafford, according to Bruce Arians, in that game. And then how about the game on Monday Night Football that we talked about for 2 weeks on this show?
With Mahomes.
He outdueled Patrick Mahomes 54-51. He threw for 413 and 4 touchdowns in that game on November 19th of 2018. Does that count?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, was that great? And then how about what he did at the end of that season against my Cowboys at the Coliseum? It was 30-22. He didn't have a big passing day, but do you remember 3rd and 7 at the 28 with 2 minutes left, and they are in trouble because Dak's coming back? Dak had heated back up, and all of a sudden he runs the bootleg that Sean McVay, it's the staple of his offense, and he bootlegs and he bootlegs and he keeps booting and he just keeps running and ran 11 yards for the first down.
Skip, I think the biggest difference between Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff is that basically you have to diagram the perfect play for Jared Goff in order for it to be successful, and that's not the case for Matthew Stafford. You can get off script. See, if I just need Stafford to make a play, buy time and make a play, he can do that. And Sean McVay was not so sure after seeing what he saw, mistake after mistake. And it's the same mistakes. That's what irritates coaches, Skip. It's the same mistake. Jared, take care of the ball. Jared, don't turn it over here.
That same team led by Jared Goff went to New Orleans for the NFC Championship game, and there was an obviously outrageously controversial call at the end of regulation?
Yes,
but it goes overtime, and Jared Goff outdueled Drew Brees at Drew Brees in that game to get them to the Super Bowl. His QBR was 68, Drew's was 55 in that game. Skip, I'm just saying he did that.
But you and I had talked about the last couple of playoff games. Drew had not been what the Drew early on in New Orleans.
I got it. Okay, I got it. You're right.
But here's the thing, Skip. At some point in time, Sean McVay, you could tell Sean McVay was growing frustrated with Jared Goff.
Where he hit bottom was in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady. And Brady wasn't much better than Jared Goff, but he had one drive in the middle of the fourth quarter that won the football game. And Jared Goff stunk the whole way. And it's possible that Sean McVay stunk the whole way, right? Because he took a lot of the blame after the game.
Well, he has to understand the game and not take the risk, because once Coach Belichick determines how the game is going to be played, he accordingly. Well, that's not what Sean McVay did. And Sean McVay learned a valuable lesson that, okay, this game is going to be played like this. I got to alter my game plan. But that kid, number 9, and I call him a kid because he's significantly younger than I am, Skip, he's special now. And I don't believe, with the exception of Jim Caldwell, that he had the best head coach and the best coaching in Detroit.
All right, you could argue that. But I'm going to finish on Jared Goff. He at least got them to the Super Bowl.
Yes, he did.
And then last year, he led them up to Seattle. They went 10-6 during the regular season, and they beat Seattle at Seattle. He didn't put up big numbers in that game, but he was the winning quarterback in that game. Okay, so I'm still, my jury is way out on whether Matt Stafford has better intangibles, big game intangibles, than Jared Goff did, because every time it was a big game, he played pretty to very well. Maybe over the long haul, he's not good enough in Sean McVay's mind to go win the Super Bowl, right?
I tell you what you're about to find out.
Okay.
How good his intangibles are and whether or not he can win the
Well,
big
guess
game.
what? This is very arguably the biggest game of Matt Stafford's career, because he's never going to have felt the kind of focus and spotlight and pressure. This is it. This is a preview, very potentially, of the NFC Championship game. This is very possible a Super Bowl predictor, as in win the Super Bowl, because whoever wins this game could be in the catbird seat to go right on and win the Super Bowl. Am I right about that?
I agree.
And I will say this. I'm going to give you credit for this. Tom Brady in his remarks yesterday about this game was as effusive as I have ever heard him about an opponent. And I don't think it was just pregame hocus pocus. I don't think he was trying to set up the Rams for the kill here. I think he knows that this defense is his kryptonite because they did a number on him. He barely threw for 216 in the game on Monday night back at Tampa. And he had a long, hard night.
Right.
And obviously, it was a little different personnel, still Aaron Donald, and a different coordinator, Wade Phillips, in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But Tom had a long, hard afternoon in that game, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. So he went off yesterday about this is as challenging as it's getting for him, as ever been for him, because they do such a good job of disguising coverages, but they also have a great pass rush. So he says you really can't pick up on anything pre-snap because they're holding disguises, and at the same time, they have a pass rush that gets home really quickly.
Right.
Okay, and then he compliments all the DBs because they disguise, but they keep eye on quarterback so they can break on the ball quicker than other units that he's up against. So he raved about them, and you can say you always discount everything Brady says like it's all calculated or just completely sanitized for the sake of building up to the game.
Well, I think the thing is he feels very comfortable with the unit that he's taking in there, but he understands what the Rams, anytime you have an Aaron Donald, who's a top 5 player in football, you have a Jalen Ramsey, in many regards, the best defensive back, who can take away your best receiver, and now we can zone it off everywhere else, and he can take your best guy and take him man. They have pieces, Skip, that can cause problems, and they have an offense that can score points. Because, Skip, the likelihood of you winning a 14-10 game or a 17-14 ball game against this team is not very good. So you're going to have a quarterback that can go match. If you look at Brady in the Super Bowl game, Skip, you look at the last Super Bowl he lost, Nick Foles basically matched him throw for throw. And that's what Eli,
I mean, whose fault was that? Belichick.
But I'm just saying, Skip, you have to match him.
But Malcolm Butler was on the bench.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, inexplicably, unaccountably on the bench the whole game. It's a little sabotage. Go ahead.
You keep saying it's sabotage. But you're going to have to score points, and you're going to have to steal. You're going to have to get a possession. Tom Brady, normally when you beat him, you steal a possession from him just like you do Patrick Mahomes. Okay.
So your score is what?
I got 32. I got 33-32 Rams.
So by 1 point?
Yeah.
After all that you just spewed all over the table?
Hold on. You talk about they got
I'm about to see the real Matt Stafford rise and shine.
Hold on.
33 to 32.
Hold on. This is the reigning Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
A guy that you said is going to throw for 50 touchdowns, going to win the MVP this year, and going to win back-to-back Super Bowls.
No AB, no JPP. Those are both huge. You said AB's not that big a loss. I completely disagree. I think you agree that JPP is a huge loss.
Yes. I believe he's a bigger loss than what the Cowboys had last week going into the game.
Okay, I'll buy that.
But that's still, hold on. The one guy you don't bet against, if he's that, he should be able to cover all that up. He's got to be deodorant.
He's 44 years old.
Coming
off MCL surgery. And he's already back. A lot of guys would be waiting until mid-season.
What does Pro Football Focus say? What does FedEx say? FedEx been mailing him awards the last 2 weeks. So what's the problem?
No problem.
Okay,
I'm standing by my pick.
Dear.
I am going 30-28. And if Brady can get to 30 against this defense, I'm going to be in awe. I'm usually in awe on Monday, but this is going to be like bow down, like genuflect.
Skip, I gave him 32.
Okay, I don't know how you could give him 32 with no AB. Little Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson is a second-year kid. They're all pretty good, but they're not Antonio Brown. I told you that I was going to base my whole prediction on AB having his first breakout game of this season because he
had it against the Cowboys.
Okay, who did?
AB.
No, he did not.
Did you not?
He didn't kill him.
Skip, he had 100-something yards and a touchdown.
He had 147
yes.
But Chris Godwin was one who just murdered him all night long, especially at the bitter end for 24
Godwin
yards.
Didn't have more receiving yards than AB.
Okay, but I thought he was the one who made the big catches in that game. But what did AB have last week? Very few targets and 1 catch for 17 yards because Tom was saving him for the game of the year, which is this game.
Well, maybe Atlanta focused a little bit more on AB, and all of a sudden Mike Evans goes off. Chris Godwin gets a touchdown. Gronk gets 2 more.
Yep. Okay. So, again, the only small advantages I think I have is, remember, John Johnson left and went to Cleveland.
Right.
And Troy Hill, the best slot corner, I think, in the league, left and went to Cleveland.
Right.
I don't know how Cleveland got both of them, but they did.
Right.
Okay, so maybe they're slightly vulnerable there, and you think my secondary is definitely vulnerable.
Yeah, you're definitely
But we
vulnerable.
had a little revelation. We found a little godsend in the fourth quarter the other day because Mike Edwards, the backup safety, started to play nickelback. And when he got inserted into that role, what happened? 2 pick sixes in the fourth quarter happened.
Do you really want him guarding Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods?
Okay, you're going to have to. Well, he's just going to have to.
Okay.
And you're going to have to zone him up, and you're going to have to play too deep, and you're just going to have to hope that you keep everything underneath you and keep them to a low roar.
Right.
Bottom line, I believe that in the end, Brady will make one more play than Matt Stafford. And I believe in the end, you will see Matt Stafford get revealed, and I would go so far as to say exposed, as the guy who will make one big mistake in a game of this magnitude on this stage for his first time ever.
Well, he said, Skip, when he came to the Rams, he said, I want to be in big games. I want to play in these big
It's
moments.
one thing to say it. Now you got to do it.
And I was talking, I believe, Skip, this is not a playoff game, Skip. It's only the third week.
Okay, but it's going to feel like it.
We know the stakes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We know the stakes here.
Whew, we're talking 4:25 Eastern on Fox.
Yeah, this is definitely
This could be for home field, too, Skip.
The
This could be.
weekend, you guys. Make sure you don't miss that one.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.